You're in a meeting. Someone asks, "Does any thoughts on this?" And you have a whole paragraph of them actually. You can feel the words stacking up behind your teeth like rush, then nothing. You just nod, maybe offer a half smile, and the moment passes. Maybe it's a text. Someone says something lands a little wrong and you draft 3 replies, eat all of them, and eventually respond, yeah. Somehow, that felt safer. Why do we do this? Why does saying nothing feel less dangerous than saying something even when we have something real, valuable, and true to say? This isn't shyness. It isn't a lack of confidence. It runs much deeper than that. There's a whole architecture of psychology in the moments we go quiet, and once you end it, you'll start seeing it where? In yourself, in the people around you, in the way entire relationships and conversations get shaped by the words no one ever said. Let's talk about the people who choose not because they have nothing to say, but because silence, to them, feels like only safe bet. Picture this person. They're incredibly articulate in their own rehearsed conversations in the shower. They have entire TED Talks happening in their own monologue at 2 a.m. The second they're face-to-face with them, the words come out wrong, or worse, don't come out at all. Then, an hour later, lying in bed, they have exactly what they should have said. And devastating. Too late. Psychologists call this the doorknob. Perfect thing to say only arrives when your hand is already on the doorknob to leave. For this type, it's not just timing. It's perfectionism applied to language. The word perfectionist has an internal so high that most words feel like won't clear it. Fear being misunderstood. Fear that the imperfect version of what they mean will be taken as the only version at least. So they stay quiet. As a thought unspoken can never be quoted, taken out of context, or judged. For them is a zero-risk draft. The irony? The people around them often assume distant, detached, or uninterested. Really, they're running a full editment inside their own heads. 2. The emotional burn survivor. And there's someone who learned silence the hard way. Not from books or overthinking, from experience. Maybe they spoke up once, vulnerably, and the response was dismissal, ridicule, or that particular kind of silence from the other person that communicates that your words were not welcome here. This is what trauma-informed psychologists call a conditioned inhibition. The brain is nothing if not efficient. It tracks what leads to pain and starts walls before you even realize it. One bad experience of speaking up becomes a print. 2 or 3 becomes a belief system. My words cause problems. My honesty costs me things. Silence is protection. A burn survivor doesn't go quiet because they're passive. They go quiet because they're strategic, even if that's built by a younger, more vulnerable version of themselves who needed it time, and maybe doesn't need it quite as much anymore. What makes this type particularly poignant is they often have the most important 3. There's the twist. Some people go quiet not because they're afraid of what they'll say, but because they're too busy reading the room to jump in. You notice the energy shift when someone's didn't land. Clock the micro-expression of irritation, or it becomes a full reaction. They are, in short, exquisitely tuned to the social frequency around them. Psychologically, this maps closely to highs of what researchers call self-monitoring, the degree to which a person regulates their behavior based on social cues. These self-monitors are gifted socializers. They adapt, they adjust, but the cognitive of all that constant reading, it leaves very little bandwidth for spontaneous, filtered speech. The social calibrator falls silent not from fear exactly, but from calculation. They're waiting for the right window, the tone, the perfect moment where their action will fit rather than interrupt. And sometimes, often, that moment never quite, so they smile, observe, and leave having said far less than they. Paradox here is beautiful and a little. The person most skilled at reading people is the person least read by others. 4. The conflict avoider. This one, you know this one. This is the one who, when asked, "Are you upset with me?" says, "No, I'm fine," while clearly not fine. This is the person who watches the waiter bring the wrong order and says, "Really, this is great, thank you." Conflict avoider has learned, somewhere along the way, that saying the true thing loud, especially if it contains even a piece of disagreement, tends to blow things or create awkwardness, or make them the difficult one. Being difficult is, to them, a social they will do almost anything to avoid. Psychologists link this to something called non-response, a less discussed cousin of flight and freeze. Rather than confronting or fleeing a perceived, the fawner appeases, smooths it over, themselves palatable, and silence is the meanest form of appeasement. Can't argue with what someone never said. Cost, though, accumulates quietly. Needs go unmet. Resentment gathers without a proper address. Relationships develop a strange hollowness, on the surface, but never quite real. The conflict avoider, who just wants, ends up living in a low-grade tension never fully resolves, because it was never fully named. 5. The identity protector. Finally, this one might be the most quietly powerful of all. The identity protector isn't afraid of being judged for what they say. They're afraid of what their words reveal about who they are. Really speaking, is exposed. Every opinion, every reaction, joke or observation you share, it's a tiny piece of your interior life handed over to someone else to evaluate. Some people find that thrilling. Others find it absolutely terrifying. The identity protector has often built a very curated version of themselves the world gets to see. Unscripted speech feels like a crack in armor. What if they say something that sounds dumb? What if their values don't land well? What if the real version of them, unfiltered, unpolished, just isn't liked? This is deeply tied to what psychologist Carol Dweck would recognize as a fixed self-concept, a sense that who you are is a finite thing that can be damaged by external. So they stay quiet, because silence doesn't feel anything. Revealing nothing feels, at least, like doing nothing. So here we are. 5 different people, 5 silences, all looking the same from the outside, but built on completely different ends. Perfectionism, learned pain, or awareness, peacekeeping, self-protection. The question isn't whether you recognize these. Most of us carry pieces of all. The question is, which one has had power over you? Which silence has cost you the most? Conversation you needed to have? Truth you needed to say? Version of yourself you never quite let one see? Silence isn't always the enemy. Sometimes it's wisdom. Sometimes it's just the most comfortable age we've ever lived in. Which type feels the most like you? Drop it in the comments. And if this one hit a little close to home, maybe someone in your life needs to see it too. Share it with them, if you must.